design in home furnishings. New materials meant new shapes and colors, and mass production meant more people could buy it. Throw in the space age, and we now had a new mod style to decorate our homes with. Joining us with how it still inspires design today, please welcome interior designer Abby Vasek. Hello there, Abby. If Abby looks familiar, that is because you saw her in a competition on a reality show recently.
That's right, HGTV star. Yeah. And next week is the final episode.
Yeah. That's such a great show because, you know, we get a look at all different types of design and the way that we can actually incorporate it into our own homes. But the design we're talking about today, kind of that mid-century modern and space age.
Groovy design.
Is back.
It's so back. It is amazing. And just like we saw in that video, how high design, it affects us all. I mean, right now, if you walk into JCPenney's, you'll see Jonathan Adler's brand new line, which is a total throwback. Yeah. Everything is going back to this very iconic design.
Yeah. Now, normally our set looks like, if we have a picture of our before, you see our set looks like something that's very modern and you know, great today.
Yes.
But if we were to go that mid-century modern look, this is what it looks like now.
Now, thanks to, this all came from an amazing local mid-century modern store called Reeves.com, and they also have a sister store called Cool Stuff. How easy is that to remember? Cool Stuff.
And the neat thing is we want to incorporate this in our own house is that you can get things and reupholster it, but as long as you keep those clean lines and that shape, then you have a kind of real piece of history, if you will.
A real piece of history, and it's amazing what I think one cool mid-century modern piece can do in your space. It just says that you've got layers of design, and you've got something that's really super cool.
You have a story.
A story.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So during that time period, I mentioned that we had kind of that mid-century modern. What really defines mid-century modern?
Well, it's going to be very clean lines, and a lot of it is using materials that were not previously available. In 1963, polypropylene was invented, and suddenly you could pour furniture into molds and make things like, for instance, this Charles Eames chairs manufactured by Herman Miller.
I remember those at the bowling alley.
Company. Yes. Y'all look at this. This changed everything. And then once they could start making designs more ergonomic, started thinking outside the box like everybody did in the 60s, started shucking everything that was traditional, they started showing the lines of things, the chairs, saying, let's not hide how things are constructed. Let's take that construction and make it into the form. And then you start getting the Panton chairs and these bubble chairs.
And when you say that you pour something into a mold, that means mass production and more people could get that now. There's a look at the Panton chair that you were talking about.
Absolutely. And then that started this whole spurt of this consumerism culture that we now have today. And that's where you got like Mad Men, this new advertising agency, and all of these mass ads happening in our societies because we could all finally afford it and they wanted to sell it to us.
Now, before then, most furniture was you had a brown wood, different variations of brown.
Handmade.
Yeah, maybe that blonde wood. But because you're using those, you know, you can sum it up with plastics, right? You have a burst of color.
Yes, that's what
she's
the 1960s.
excited about.
We got like hot pink furniture. We got
color.
We got some color.
And one of the most strong colors of the time was that orange. So orange and yellows and golds, kind of sunrise, sunset, all in one room.
That's absolutely right. And I think it was not by accident. The 1960s was such a time of idealism. And orange is a color of optimism, idealism, forgiveness. It's an amazingly healing color. And I think that's what the 60s was needing, what was happening, you know?
It's funny because I go back to my parents' house and they have some of the artwork that my sister did and all, and it looks exactly like that because it is the avocado greens, the golds, and the whole thing.
And this is another thing that just blew me away. When I went into this mid-century modern store, Cool Stuff, they're now carrying a lot of original art, retro art from the 1960s. Their collection is unbelievable. So it's available to all of you guys here in Houston.
Yeah, and Andy Warhol was saying that what's great about this country is that we kind of started this whole trend. And again, a lot of it was spurred by the kind of the consumerism, but also the space program. Like this looks like right here. This, like,
I mean, how like futuristic is this? I want to like dial into it or something.
Yeah, or beam. We could probably beam ourselves someplace. Yeah. And then David Hicks was an American designer that started teaching people how to use color. It's kind of funny that you had to actually teach us how to use color because we had come again from so long of not doing so much different color.
David Hicks, he's one of my favorite. I keep his coffee table book out on my coffee table. I brought it today just to share with you guys. He taught us about color and how to layer pattern, which is a trend that we see now, right? I mean, layers and layers of patterns, and you can't go wrong with tons of it. Again, the Jonathan Adler line is going crazy with it. It just was not... there was nothing subtle about the 1960s.
Right.
They were like pushing the limit. And in getting prepared to come here, I started looking at all these Vogue fashion models, and it was insane. Like, they would have, you know, stripes here, chevrons here, you know, all
Twiggy chopped off her hair.
I mean, craziness. They were pushing the bar.
Summer of Love, baby, 1967. The Summer of Love. I saw somebody get nostalgic over there. I saw somebody like Summer of Love. He's like, oh yeah,
that was a good time.
Yeah, you were there, weren't you? Okay, it was a good time. Now, the other thing we're seeing a lot of right now that someone who was just born yesterday might think is a new invention is what we have right in front of us, this lucite clear coffee table.
Yes.
We're hearing a lot about this in design in terms of taking up, what is it, negative space, not taking up space in a room.
Yes, not taking up visual space in a room. So especially if you're working in a very tight area, nothing better than lucite. You can bring it into, you know, lucite chairs. They call them ghost chairs now. They're incredible. You know, you get the functionality of it without taking up too much heaviness.
Yeah.
And that's what we saw a lot. We went from really heavy furniture to very light furniture. Very light.
Yes. I want to float on air right now. But I love the whole trend right now because we're seeing it like, you know, mid-century modern houses are the hot deal in real estate right now. But the point is, with especially the furniture, you can go buy the new stuff. It's certainly beautiful, but part of the fun is hunting for something that has a story behind it. And a lot of these vintage stores, like the one that you just went to, you know, has great, cool stuff. So thank you very much.
Oh, my
And a little bit later on in the show, you're going to give us an example of how to incorporate that into our own home. For more on these 60s-inspired designs, log on to greatdayhouston.com. When we come back, Harley-Davidson is an American icon that's been around for about 110 years. In the 60s, bad boys on bikes were considered really cool. Great Day's Courtney Pernin was born to be wild. She'll show you how to take to the open road. And if you don't know how to ride a bike, don't sweat it, man. They can teach you.